Hello and welcome back to Talon 101. This time we're going to take a look at a move that has changed a lot in Tekken 8. That's Hwoarang's Hellsweep, or RFS down 4-3-4. Predator Bardiche, that is brand new move name, and it's very Heihachi-like, where there's a place where you can get a frame trap, a place where you can get damage, and of course, convert for a lot of damage if it was counter hit. And boy, does that push the opponent really far. Because if you had heat active or if it was counter hit and the wall is right there, that's gonna convert for way too much damage. And then you still get Okizeme all on top of it. Really strong Hellsweep now. It's just that it isn't exactly a standard Hellsweep anymore. So of course, let's start with the base. Frame data on RFS down 4 comes at 20 frames, is +7 force crouch, and -23 on block. Basically, it's death if someone blocks it, but if it connects, you can now trap them with a 13 frame move because you're now in right foot forward. And of course, the 13 frame move that you always want to trap them with RFS D+4. But before we get to the frame traps, let's talk about the tracking, because its tracking is suspicious. Suspicious in the sense that it usually tracks versus sidestep left, but sometimes it doesn't. But because spacing is involved, and if you press RFS down 4-3, you can actually catch someone stepping towards the left. But you need to press it. You need to actually commit to it. So if you don't commit to it, even then, you will have chances of it missing. But you need to commit to it if you want it to catch sidestep left in some instances. Because most of the time, even without the second hit, it will usually catch towards sidestep left and you don't have to worry about it. So it's only really specific scenarios where pressing the full thing or even just up to the second hit is enough to catch. But then even then, you would be at a frame disadvantage when that happens. But you usually are catching sidestep left and sidestep right in most situations. So that was after 4-4. That's after RFS F4. So that's spacing and frames. But walk is very weak. It's very weak versus walk. So if we change to 4-4 again, you see, just loses out completely. And then if we do RFS F4, loses out completely. Change that to sidewalk right, RFS F4 again, loses out completely. And then 4-4 catches. Generally, you can count on it to track versus sidestep left and sidestep right. Just watch out in certain situations when you do it. Now, let's go back to the frame traps. Oh boy, because this really fun. Because if the opponent does get hit by it, there's nothing they can do against this. That's what you're always getting. You're always getting that. There's nowhere for them to go. The only way they can actually beat RFS D+4, if they have one of the best sidesteps in the game, so that's Lily, is to sidewalk left. And that's the only thing they can do. But even then, even if they decide to sidewalk left, Hwoarang has options to prevent them from going sidewalk left. That's F1+2, that's down back 4, and if you had the hard read or heat is active, D+4. And that's not counting all the other highs and lows that you could potentially do. That's just a short list of like really good options to run with. And so if sidewalk left is pretty much their only hope, and you can keep going for RFS D+4, where let's say you're unable to prevent them from doing sidewalk left, right? That's where Rage Arts or Armor can hurt you. Because if you're going to try to check them with a 16 frame move or 15 frame move, you're going to lose there. So that's 16. If this is 15, Rage Art will activate. But of course, your hard read into the 13 frame Ignition Barrage will win out. But of course, again, that's -14 on block. Of course, you could still opt for a DF1. No problems there. But again, it loses out like putting them into force crouch to begin with. They're going to check them after being put in such an advantageous situation. But you'll take away the armor as well. So again, really loves this situation. RFS D+4. So like default to RFS D+4 right away. And then if you lose against anything for RFS D+4, and that's usually just a walk, and then apply the counter play when RFS D+4 actually loses. Another thing you must know about this low is that it hits grounded. So if the opponent's on the floor and you're in right flamingo stance and you wanted to hit them grounded, RFS down 4 does that. And it pushes them away, it flips them over too. And that's very important at the wall. It's a really advantageous situation for Hwoarang at that point. As a sample, it's not exactly something that goes in depth, so you can lab that out as much as you like. But yeah, just know that flip overs are very strong in Tekken 8. So that basically covers the Predator part, not the Bardiche part. The Bardiche part is now. So the second follow-up is 27 damage, -1 on hit, and surprisingly, -9 on block, because most follow-up Hellsweeps are pretty punishable on block. Usually they are launch punishable and usually -14 if they're going to be on the safer end. This is -9. That's crazy. And of course, it goes back to left foot forward. So if an opponent is defaulting to their muscle memory, they say Hellsweep, and then they attempt to launch punish this, you're safe. Also, especially if their launcher was unsafe, then you get a free punish back then, right? Of course, it is only 27 damage. That is a chunk, but it is weaker by its Tekken 7 counterpart by 12 whole points. So his Tekken 7 counterpart did 39 damage. Now it only does 27, and this is all natural. But of course, it doesn't knock down, but you are -1. So at -1, the most you can generally do is to use movement and look for that whiff punish, depending on what the opponent does, right? So you either use movement or you steal your turn because you're still only -1. That's pretty much it for RFS down 4-3. Let's talk about the full thing, which is RFS down 4-3-4. And that's also -9, the last hit. That's crazy. And it's only natural on counter hit. And of course, it puts him back in left foot forward. So of course, to see the full damage, that is 36 damage. Again, weaker compared to his Tekken 7 counterpart by 3 points. But if heat is active where it turns natural, that's only weaker by 1 point. And of course, you'd need to spend a good chunk of your heat bar. But it's Hellsweep type damage. Of course, if the move hits, it's great. Most especially if it was on counter hit or with heat. But you can actually surprise your opponent. So if the opponent tries to press a button, right? Because they're like, oh, you're gonna go -1. Maybe you're not gonna press a button. I'm gonna try to check you with a, a homing move or whatever, right? That tracks towards that side. And you're like, nope. I'm still gonna press a button. I'm still gonna press it. Like so. So that's one way you can even use this low. So instead of like just going for, let's say, movement, and then of course punishing them for it, you could say, screw it, I'm gonna do the whole thing and catch them by surprise. But yes, that's as straightforward as this low goes. If you have heat active, it's extremely dangerous. And then if you don't have heat active, you try to convert off this +7 as much as you can, because there isn't really anywhere they can go. So if you're looking for damage, press RFS down 4-3, Predator Bardiche. If you're looking only for frame traps, Predator is what you press. And they can't really step anymore at that point. So you don't even have to use the short list of options. You can extend it to whatever you like. Just make sure you're not getting caught by a Rage Art or Armor. But yeah, this is a major threat if you know how to use it with heat. And if you know how to convert your +7. Because if you do, then this brand new Hellsweep is certainly in your wheelhouse to make the opponent really think about it and to continue Hwoarang pressure, because since it goes to RFF, you can connect that back to another down 3-4 and just do it again, just with slightly more damage. But yeah, that's a very short preview about the Hellsweep. That's everything I know about it. Again, I've been Frontier, and thank you for watching.